Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Stanisci. He's Gary Groob there on the top beside me, and just below the top of the conversation here, Jamie Dubrick. Jamie, welcome to the program. It's really nice to have you here.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, Frank and Gary, for having me on.
Here's a question for you. I don't want to rack your brains too much, but let's see how it goes. Why did you start playing lacrosse?
That's a great question. You know what? I think I was around 3 years old, and my mom put me in just kind of out of the blue. We went down to like one of those try lacrosse for free things, and my mom was trying to put me into sports. My mom was kind of that person to do that. My dad passed away when I was a little bit younger. My mom was always there and kind of threw me into lacrosse around 3, and I never stopped.
What kept you in?
Oh, the love of the game and just playing and you know, the teammates and just everything. It was great for me to have. I played hockey as well. So as I got older, I played both. But it was always actually one of the best things to keep in shape for hockey season. I always kept on saying to myself, so throughout the summer, I'd keep playing and just, you know, running and everything else. You just keep in the best shape going back into hockey camp.
And then you decided to stay in lacrosse, and you know, you're a former player and now a coach.
Yeah.
What brought you to coaching?
I think, you know, I was still playing when I jumped on board and started coaching. I was playing senior, and I ran into some guys here. I live in London. I'm from Kitchener originally, but I live in London, and they were just having some trouble. So I came out to a couple practices to help them out. And then it was just that thing, giving back to the game was a big part, was just trying to help out and give back to what I kind of had growing up, and had some good coaches to kind of keep me the way, you know, show you the way through. And that's pretty much what it was, just kind of giving back and helping that out.
And being in the room, that's something as a player, probably most players miss the most, is being in that room.
Yeah, especially when you stop playing, you know, it's the dressing room. Everybody will say that. It is. It's a big part of it's a big part of the team and big part of lacrosse or hockey or whatever sport you play. It's just being around the guys and that small chat where, you know, you're away from everything else that happens pretty much in life for a couple hours a night or whatever it is. It kind of takes your mind away from everything else. And yeah, the room was a big part. Yeah, as well.
Yeah. Where you pull together, and the distraction of concentrating on pulling together is nice to step away from life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead, Gary.
Who was really the most you could say instrumental when you were young in developing you in your style and just keeping you involved and getting you on the right track in lacrosse?
Yeah, you know what? I had a lot of different coaches through minor, house league, and then into getting into the all-star. Like I played all-star from, you know, your tyke level, I guess you can say. I had a lot of different coaches, a lot of player coaches. Ian McGough was one of our coaches when I was young that kind of helped out. He's been around the whole minor system. A couple parent coaches, but really it was just some of my guys I played hockey with as well. So it was an offset where we just kind of did both. There's about 5 of us that kind of played hockey in the wintertime, lacrosse in the summertime, and we just kept together with that. And that actually went through minor all the way till to our, you know, midget last year of kind of playing minor. And then guys broke off, but it was the same grouping of guys that kind of played both. It wasn't a lot, but it was about a good handful of 5 guys. And a lot of those parents and stuff, we just kind of kept together. And that was our off kind of season compared to what we did with hockey in the wintertime.
Right. Now, you mentioned you grew up in Kitchener. We've got a number of guys, especially recently, like Dane Smith, Craig Wendy, who've come through Kitchener. Let's talk about when you were coming up through the Kitchener program and what made this program so special that it's yielded so many championships over the years and have brought up so many great players.
Yeah, when I was younger growing up, so I played a lot with, every second year I played with Colin Doyle, who's been around for a long time and a really good friend of mine as well. We played every second year together. And then every year you kind of keep on going up. But back when I was growing up, you know, the junior B team won a bunch of championships. So you go watch those games. and those guys were, older than I was. Steve Dietrich, Chugger was one of the goaltenders back then. So you just followed a lot of the junior teams, and we were still young at the time. But when they're winning championships and you're watching the people in the stands and like some of the old arenas there, it was kind of cool to see that. But yeah, it was just like the guys a couple years older that you kind of followed. Like I said, Colin Doyle was ahead of me. There's a couple other guys, but nothing really out of those years. It wasn't really big. It was more or less, my year, Colin Doyle's year. There's a bunch of guys out of that, and then behind us was all the other guys like the Ryan Beneshes, the Dane Smiths, like Bulins. They all kind of came about 5 years after us, 4 years after us came through.
Right. Now, you look at the areas like Peterborough and Orangeville and things like that, where the entire community just comes together. Would you say it's the same in Kitchener when it was time for games and just being that guy as part of the program? Is they all look for some of those guys were more jovial about being part of the junior A team than they were about getting drafted into the NLL. Is it the same over in Kitchener?
Not somewhat. There was a junior team, was the junior A team at the time, and we were just kind of developing as then. Orangeville, obviously, smaller town, huge lacrosse city. From where we were in Kitchener, we had Fergus just up the road as well. Orangeville was close by. So a lot of those places had like the small town feel, I guess you can say, where Friday night, everybody closed down and everybody's at the rink. Like that rink sold out every game. Us, on the other hand, lots of parents, lots of friends. You get a good crowd, but it was nothing like that. Like I never had that feel until you go into the Bunny Barn in Orangeville, I guess you can call it. And it was pretty cool back in the day when you're playing there and it's a packed house, right? So a little bit different feel, but we're a little bit bigger city in Kitchener where lacrosse was big, but it wasn't as big as like you say, as Orangeville.
Right. Now you're talking about playing junior B. Let's talk a little bit about the teams that you were on and just some of the camaraderie that you had that kind of followed you up the ranks.
Yeah. So I played junior. I started junior when I was in '93, like way back in the day. And I did I just kept on playing. There's only my age group. I think we had 2 guys that kept on playing through. So it's very different. It wasn't like hockey where there's a ton of players. It just we didn't have the following, and some guys would play, and then that was really it. I love the sport. I got into it, and I just kept putting my stick down. Do you know what I mean? So I played junior. I played up junior a bit when I was playing midget still. I get a phone call. E. McGough was coaching the junior A team at the time, so I go play games for them. When we were playing midget tournaments or games were done, they needed extra players, I'd go play. So that kind of helped me kind of, fall in love a little bit more with it. And then the next step of the next 5 years, I guess you can say.
Right.
But junior was a lot of fun for me. We had a couple really good teams. When I came up as a rookie, we had Matt Disher was our goaltender back then. We had a lot of guys that were playing in the NLL at the time. Colin Doyle, Phil Weatherup, Josh. We had a bunch of guys that were in that stage of the next stage, I guess you could say, of going to there. But it was great. Like I had a lot of fun. Those are a lot of memories I will never take away from me. We had some great teams there. And we had some really good coaches as well. And then things changed. And you kind of, okay, what am I going to do after junior? Or am I going to get traded my last year of junior? Or how's it going to go that way? But I really wanted to stick. I was a Kitchener guy kind of through and through, and I didn't really want to go anywhere. But yeah, that was my kind of junior career.
Right.
Jamie,
sorry.
Hang on, Gary, please. Thank you. Sorry for interrupting. Jamie, I wanted to drill down a little bit on Kitchener to make sure people understand how lacrosse fits into every community. It's really a sport that thrives in places that, for example, doesn't have a junior team or doesn't have, when it becomes something that it's all about lacrosse, like Orangeville. With the Kitchener Rangers, they're a pretty popular junior hockey team. So you're basically sharing that pool. I just wanted to express that to people. It isn't about the game of lacrosse. It's about what's available in the community. Yeah,
you're correct there. The Kitchener Rangers are big, obviously. They still do great. They get 6,000, 7,000 fans a game. So they're big. Kitchener had, we had a inter-county baseball team, the Kitchener Panthers back then. Big team as well, got a good crowd. So certain things we were playing off of, you're competing against those as well. But in the summertime, it's a little bit different, right? Because we're not competing against Kitchener Rangers. It's just the following is different, right? You have your hockey and then you have your lacrosse. So yeah, it's still a big town, and I follow it now, even being not living in Kitchener now. A lot of my friends, their kids are playing lacrosse in Kitchener, so I'm still following it and seeing it develop, and it's growing, and it's on Instagram, it's on TikTok, and the parents are, showing videos. So it is there. but it's like, how much do you grow? Because now if you look at minor lacrosse across Ontario, and you guys would know because you talk about this, all the time, there's teams everywhere. All these cities have teams. There's a lot more than what we had. And we didn't have that many players. And now there's just so many more players, more people trying to play it. And it's really cool to see. And as an outsider, like looking across Ontario, you wouldn't know that, right? Or else a person that doesn't know lacrosse, they might not know that Kitchener was big back in the day, but we were for lacrosse. We had some really good players come out of there. And if you look at the NLL list, there's a ton of guys from Kitchener that come out.
Yeah. Same thing with the NHL list for that matter, too. Really, way back when, it was huge. Now, I'm curious. You're a big guy at 6'4" and about 265 or so. When they first started looking at you seriously, were they trying to put you back towards defense? Because it seems as though the size-wise would be something that was great until they see you have hands, and all of a sudden, hey, we can use him up front.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of played, growing up in minor, you play front door, back door. You just played everything. Junior, you played more. I kind of did both, front door, a little bit of transition. I played on the power play. And then we had the likes of like Aaron Wilson come up, who's a scorer, who's a right side guy, which I was a righty. So then you kind of, you shift a bit, right? Because now, okay, we got a couple younger guys coming up and they're great players, right? So yeah, you do take a step back and, you go at the back door, you play more defense or play more of this. So yes, I did change. I've changed over the years, to be honest, from out the front door to the back door. I was fortunate to get, so my last year, coming down the stretch, I guess my last couple of years of junior, Terry Sanderson, Orangeville coach at the time. Actually, he was with Brampton at the time, the senior A team. And I had the opportunity to play up a couple of games with them because we weren't affiliated. So back then you can play a bunch of games up. So I played, a couple years of my junior, I think it was like my third, fourth year of junior. I was playing up Brampton for a couple of games because they had no players. But with the affiliation, we can just go play anytime. So I had the opportunity to play up there and fell in love with like playing with those guys and, Brampton Excelsiors. It's a huge thing. And Terry Sanderson, huge coach throughout, and I had the opportunity to play for him. And my last year junior, Terry came out to me an exhibition game. We're playing Orangeville. We're playing at Albert McCormick Arena, Waterloo. And I was outside during intermission, and he came outside and says, like, you got to move. You got to go play somewhere else. You can't play here. It's not helping you. Come to Orangeville or come play in Brampton. And I said, you do what you need to do to get it done, and I'm on board. So that was my last year junior. I ended up getting traded to somehow Brampton senior A team. I don't even know how it happened, but I think probably that's the way it worked. So I was fortunate my last year junior. I got to play, went to Brampton, played my rest of the games there quite a bit, played all the playoffs, went to the Man Cup. We played against Victoria, so played against the Gate Brothers. We ended up losing 4 straight, but I had the opportunity to play there as an underage, which is really cool. And I was playing out the back door there and kind of in both sections. So, go out the front door a bit. My time in Albany, I played with the front door. Terry Sanders was my coach. So it just kind of, whatever they want me to play, I just kind of went and played it.
Right. Well, now we brought up the Albany thing. I want to bring that up a little bit, going into the NLL for Albany, and of course, with them, I always love asking, your first training camp, was it what you envisioned?
Yeah, it was. You know what? It kind of happened. It was a little weird. It's a little different way it happened. I was actually playing at the time. We got back the year before with the Man Cup. Terry Sanderson, my coach. Terry Sanderson was coaching in Albany as well. But I was playing hockey in the States. I was actually playing in the Western Professional Hockey League. I was in Odessa, Texas. And I was kind of getting shipped around that league for a bit. I came back. I didn't really stay the whole league because I still had a year left of junior eligibility in Ontario. But I had a tryout down there, played down there for a bit. When I came back, Terry was like, do you want to play in the NLL? And he's like, are you going back to play hockey? And I said, if you give me a contract, I'll stay. And that's what kind of happened there. So I got a contract, ended up in Albany. And you know what? It was very similar to playing in Brampton. We had a lot of Brampton players there. Our coaching staff was the majority of the Brampton. We had Bob McMahon there, Terry Sanderson. So it was nice to have those guys there because I knew them, and a bunch of our players as well. Like Dan T, we had a couple, Brian, there's a bunch of guys there, not to name a couple, but it was kind of like playing at home in the summertime. The camp was really good, but it was very different back then because we only had, I think there's 8 teams in the league. And then we had, you had the 2 practice guys. Now there's 4 practice guys. So it was just different. It was a smaller group and everybody treated you like you were one of the players. So yeah, training camp was good. It wasn't like it is now. I can tell you that for a fact. I think it's a little bit different back then. And now it's more, consistent where you get tons of guys come to camp. Back then it's pretty much your team plus a couple extra runners. That's really it.
Right. One of the things that guys start talking about now is that from junior to going to the NLL camp, the speed difference is like, holy smokes. Like I knew we were playing quick, but wow. And the guys like a Jeff T, who just envisions the game so much slower than everybody else. You can almost see it in slow motion, whereas other people are like, "Oh, this is going like like a pinball." When you first got up there, was it the same?
Well, a little bit. Like, it was a lot faster, but I was also playing summer ball, and you're playing senior A for a bit. It kind of gets you ready for that, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
Coming out junior, it's a big jump, right? But these guys are, like, I had Josh Anderson on my team, Dan Teat. You watch these guys throw the ball around, and it's pretty crazy, right? And they're good. So yeah, the speed is a lot faster. The transition game's a lot faster. That's when they kind of turned into that transition game. When I jumped to senior A, puts you in the gas of where the transition game kind of comes into play. But then when you get to the NLL, it's all transition, right? So yeah, it was an eye opener to that, and it is a lot faster. But sometimes when you're a player and you have the skill / somewhat the speed, you fit in pretty good. You know what I mean? It's not like you're completely standing there like a sore thumb. You can fit in there and actually get and be productive, I guess you can say. So that was a good thing, where I wasn't just like just out there not doing nothing, but I actually kind of fit in. But it is a lot faster.
Right. Now, you lasted a little bit, but then you got hurt. Is that when the coaching thing came to mind? Is like, yeah, I can give back this way instead of going that way.
Yeah, you know what? I got traded to Columbus in the off season after that year. I was up and down on the practice roster in Albany. Got traded to Columbus. After that, was injured. So my NLL was kind of done then, because I was still hurt. So I took a season off or two. I was playing senior still in Brampton. I ended up getting trained to Six Nations in 2003. When I got traded to Six Nations, they were in a different world where they were trying to go back to being all native. I liked it there, had a great time there. Some really good players, made a lot of friends there. It wasn't like I didn't want to play there. I just kind of fell a little bit on the outside. Ian McGough at the time was coaching in Kitchener. I ended up going back, playing senior B for a couple more years, won a couple President's Cups there. That's when I got into coaching. When I went back there, I started coaching. So that was the year 2003 when I kind of started coaching and just got kind of get more involved in the back end.
Right. Now, you won cups in 2003 and 2005. The Kodiaks were a fantastic team. And, something that I think is still missing, that they're not there now. Something that is higher. I think that they should be back.
I agree, Gary. I wish it was still there. We had the senior B team there, and then, we had a good run. We went to 3 finals. Like we had a chance to win 3 in a row. We lost in the finals the one year, and didn't make it out west. But yeah, we had some good players there. A lot of NLL guys kind of stuck together. It would be nice to have a team back there, especially that area. With the senior B, because I know the senior B loop's kind of all over the place now. But yeah, it'd be nice to have them back in Kitchener.
Right. Now, you hit MSL as a coach, and you spent time with Coburg. Let's talk about that. You put on the parka and off you go into the Coburg Community Center. Man, that's probably the coldest place I ever spent in summer in.
Yes,
love the place. Boy, oh boy, does that place ever get cold?
It is chilly with the rinks next door. Yeah, no, I was coaching in Kitchener, and then Kitchener kind of folded / got reopened in Coburg. So I went back to Kitchener when Steve Dietrich was there. He was the GM. Yeah. He brought me back to coach there. So I was coach with him. I was there, I don't even know what years that was, 2010, 11. Then they ended up selling the team to Coburg, to John Webb. John messaged me, and I knew a bunch of the players, lots of young guys. So at the time, I was like, we just chatted, and I said I'd like to stick. If there's an opportunity to stick on, I know a lot of these kids, a lot of young guys too, and that's where that kind of development and watching these young guys and guys that were like the next stage of going to the NLL, which I really enjoyed to help coach and kind of put them in the right direction. So I ended up going to Coburg, and it was a lot of fun. I had a really young team there, and in that league, it's tough because you had 2 teams that were really good back in that day, right? We had Peterborough that was loaded. I guess Six Nations was just there, kind of getting there, but Peterborough was the team to kind of beat then. And you know what? With the young kids, it just makes you look at things differently, because you're coaching guys that are good players. They're just not the big names that are older veterans that have been around for a long time. And these guys are just getting their foot in the door with the NLL. So I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. And like you said, it's nice to kind of to talk to these kids, not just on the floor, outside of lacrosse as well, and kind of have the understanding of what they need to do to get there. And also like just kind of have them like, I've been there, kind of done that in a sense. And here's what you need to do to do that now. Right.
Mm-hmm. Now, with the MSL, the way it's worked now, and I love summer ball. I love it more than NLL. I really enjoy this style of the game. It's a little more aggressive, a little more, a rough and tumble kind of thing. But with the exception of some Six Nations games and Peterborough, the attendance is you want to cry when you take a look and go into Brampton and see about 35 people here, going to Owen Sound, and you see the janitors, and that's about it. What can we do to get people to realize that this is really great lacrosse with the same people you're spending 60, 80, $100 for a ticket in the winter for $10? Like, how can we not get this message across to people?
Yeah, I've been through the MSL for a long time now. I still, summertime, people go to the cottages. They're doing different things. Maybe they got kids playing. Like, I don't know the way you can change it, because all the league games, especially with the MSL, are during the week. Yep. So they give you an option for a weekly rather than the weekend where people try to go away. Most, except for Coburg is on a Sunday. But other than that, it's tough. I don't know what the answer is. Do we give all the minor kids passes to all the games? Like, I don't know. They have to do something in order to get these kids out, right? Because I think they're just missing that next stage. Now, you look at Peterborough, for example. When we were playing senior back there in the early 2000s, they had no fans. Like, there was totally no fans there. Concrete floor, the old stage at the back had the curtains down. I remember playing there, and it was crazy, because now you go up there and there's 3,500 or 2,700 fans there. There's cars on the floor. There's cops by the dressing room. I love it. I go in there and it's like you're playing the show kind of thing. So, and it's great for the players now when they go up there. I'm like, this is the biggest game you'll play because of all the fans / everything else, and it's pretty cool. I just don't know if that's the case. Like, I know they get a ton of sponsors, and that's how that kind of turned over. And they bring the fans out and they do stuff like that. But maybe they work on the minor league and trying to really get the minor organizations to get maybe a pass to every game. I don't know. They got to do something. Because I think we're missing it.
Yeah, I had Wayne Colley on. We were talking about it, also trying to figure out some of these things. And what we have now is we have 2 teams with Six Nations and Peterborough, and then we have 5 teams feeding them. Because as soon as a player because they're the ones getting paid, and you got all the young guys. As soon as they have a name of whatever, off they go, and it becomes feeder leagues. And I know Coburg's had a number of great teams where now I watch these guys all over the league, and half of them are on Peterborough, half of them are in Six Nations, and it just, I for all the time and all the effort put in by these organizations, there should be some way to generate it. I know Brampton had a huge problem after Brennan Steele left, and once they weren't able to pay players, they became sell this off, sell that off, just to stay afloat and meet payroll and meet budgets. So there has to be something. Maybe to work with cities and work with, I don't know, just so that it makes the arena deals better. And then, like you had mentioned, work with OLA and trying to get the young kids in there just to build your fan base.
Yeah, like you look at the NLL, Toronto, they get a good crowd there. I guess they were playing Mississauga last year. They had good crowds. Now they're back in Hamilton. You got Albany now moving to Oshawa. You know what I mean? So you're playing in an OHL arena for both of those places that get good crowds for the OHL. I think that will help, kind of maybe develop that more fan base, I guess you can say. But when it's 2 teams that have a lot of, I guess, back end money and help, to pay for players and stuff, it's tough, right? So yeah, the league, but then other teams, you look at it, and a lot of the teams, I'm in Oakville, and we're owned by the Toronto Rock. You know what I mean? Jamie Delwick and everything, and I love working with these guys and doing that. And our guys are all young guys trying to make the next step up. And it's a great development it's a great summer league for these guys to kind of show themselves to the ownership of the Toronto Rock, B, the coaching staff of the Toronto Rock. You know what? So for that, what do you do? We had a lot of young kids and a lot of their practice roster guys and some other kids. And majority of those kids all got drafted. I think we had 4 or 5 guys get drafted off of the Oakville Rock this summer. And then so that's a good sign there. Because maybe it's not all about winning the Mann Cups. Maybe it's about these kids developing more. Maybe do we have too many teams in the league? Possibly. There's different. Everybody's got a different, I guess, point of view of where they're coming from when it comes to either winning a Mann Cup or, making an NLL roster the next year. I really think that's a big one too. Now you got to remember too, a lot of these players come from all over the place. Like we had guys coming from Windsor. That's the 3-hour, almost 4-hour trip into Oakville do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once a week, twice a week. You're going to Peterborough, which is a 6-hour trip. It's a lot of travel. So that's the other thing too. And you're getting across the middle of the week. That's tough.
Absolutely. Let's talk about you as a coach, though, in this, especially with the youth, and your style and your ability to reach the younger kids. Do you see it really catching on? And once the light bulb turns on, and the kids understand the idea, and then the joy that comes along with that. The Oakville Rock's a perfect example with the youth movement in there, and I think you were a great choice with. With Challen and the other guys in there to build some of these guys up that they're ready for NLL.
Yeah, and that's the big piece. Like this year, Challen jumped on the bench. Matty Sawyer was there. John Harrison was there. I've known Matty for a couple of years now. I used to play with Johnny back in the Brampton days. Great. Like we're all there trying to help these guys develop. And, you get a bunch of coaches on the bench, but when you got an opportunity to sit and talk to a guy for 2 seconds and tell him the small little pieces he needs to change. And these are all the young kids that are developing the next stages, right? When you're playing against the Six Nations and you're playing against Dane Smith, who's one of the best players in the world, and you're playing against, do you know what I mean? It's a really neat it's a really cool opportunity for some of these players that just don't get the chance to do that all the time. And now you can tell them small things like, hey, do this here, don't run this way, follow through here. It's going to make them better players, right? So that development piece was very enjoyable for the summertime. And I like it. I love working with the young kids and trying to, even a couple of small pieces of advice just to make them, see something differently or see the floor differently or run a little faster.
The idea that they get to play against that kind of quality player makes it easier to coach them as well, because you get to truck them out there and they get to try and execute what you're telling them, and it helps them understand why they're doing what they're doing if you're a good coach.
Absolutely. And it's the small things, right? Because like you could load up a team, but if you're not gonna have a chance to beat the Peterboroughs or the Six Nations, this is the next best case scenario. Get all some young kids there, the draft picks that are the next steps out, and just develop them. And that's what we did, and that's what Oakville did. I think I give a lot of credit to Jamie Dowak for that and for what he's doing there and bringing these kids up and giving them an opportunity, right? Because now they get to see them all summertime too, and then they go to NLL camps afterwards, and you can see the development, see how far they've come, right?
Right. I think one of the names that comes to mind is Ty English. I watched him develop from a lot of raw talent at the beginning of the summer, but the Ty English that I saw by the end of the summer was an entirely different player than what I saw. Yeah. Josh Torwick as well. I've watched him take huge leaps in the last couple of years from where he was when he first got in to where he is now wearing a C on Oakville.
Yeah, absolutely. Josh took over the leadership role this year, and he was great at it. And he showed on the floor. He was our guy on the offensive side. The ball went through him a lot. You know what I mean? And you can see in the numbers. And he was great. He led the team. He was a leader in the dressing room. And that's what you need, especially for a younger guy too, with his next kind of phase into the NLL. Like he had a great season last year in Toronto, put up huge numbers. And I can't wait to see what he's going to do the next couple of years, because that's just going to benefit him. And then he goes to the summertime and being the guy in the summertime, right? Like you're the guy. Now going, here's the ball, go run with it. And he had a great summer. So I'm looking forward to seeing his next steps. Ty played with us for the last 2 seasons, and he's gone from like night and day. Like the development and the small, but that's the coaching things. It's not like you're just coaching him, but you're giving him small ideas, small options where to go to, the proper areas to run to. Through transition, don't take bad shots on the wrong side. Like, you know what I mean? There's certain things where that really changes a player's way of learning, especially when you're younger, just out of junior. Now you got 2 years, right? So a little bit different. I can't wait to see him in the NLL. Like he's just built differently. Like he's fast. He has everything. He's fast. The athleticism from is crazy. Like, so it's really cool to see, but I'll tell you, from like you said, from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, it was a different player, totally different player.
Yeah, well, these guys both are, as well as a couple of other guys, they became 2- and 3-dimensional players from the one-dimensional player that I saw originally. And you can't really put a stereotype on them because they just went over here and here and here. And I say Ty, especially when you're talking about athleticism, and he's a big kid, and he plays as though he's smaller, but he has that size behind him too. So he has that extra oomph just to make his presence known.
Yeah, and a lot of these players now too, like they want to play lacrosse. They're athletes. They work out. They run all day. Like it's a different league. It's different than it used to be, I guess you can say. Like these guys put in a lot of work outside of lacrosse. You could tell. They come in, they're just jacked. You know what I mean? Like Ty, like near the end of the season, Ty was playing almost every shift for us. Like he was out there half the game, or more than half the game. And there's not a lot of players that can do that. But when you have the next, I guess not the next generation of players, but the next, grouping of these NLL guys, it's gonna be cool to see these guys play. And just like you said, like I said, the athleticism of these guys, it's crazy. So I'm excited for this year and seeing some of these guys in the NLL on the floor there.
Right. Now, I want to pivot to the Arena Lacrosse League, and you've been in there since basically the inception of it. And I love this league. I love it. I love being the media guy for it, but I love so many of these players and watching them coming in as raw pieces of clay and watching them get molded into professional players. But you guys, not only on the floor, but off the floor, teach these guys how to become pros, how to stay pros. And I think it's something around 30 or 35 guys that have gone up to the big show and stayed there. Never mind the guys who are coming back and going back up again, but have stayed there. Mike Triolo comes to mind. Zach Higgins comes to mind. Steve Orleman comes to mind. And just they've all come through the program and really had a chance to work on their games as opposed to being on a practice squad somewhere and just having a Tuesday practice.
Yeah, it's a great league. I got in it. I've been there for almost 10. It came in 2015, 2016. So I've been there since day one. And the one big thing, Gary and Frank, from what I say, I'm a big fan of the Arena Lacrosse League. It gives guys options. It's almost like, I always say it's like the AHL of the NHL, in a sense, because guys stay focused. Guys can play at a high level still. Yes, it's different. They pay to play. So that makes things a little bit different as well. We don't have the same funding, but the players and the game, it's grown since day one. You know what I mean? Like this year alone, I think I had, we had a bunch of guys from Paris. I coached in Paris. So we had, and it is like kind of a league where you want to take some practice roster guys and give them an opportunity to play. But you also want to take some players that never had the chance, or they do get the chance from playing here and putting up some good numbers, because it does all the same rules as the NLL. That's the one big thing in the wintertime that we just don't have, right? The summertime's a lot different rules. And I think that, this league has really grown. And like you said, I don't know what the number was of players that went pro. I know on our team alone, I've had close to 30 to 40 guys go to camps, which is unreal. I had Cayman Diablo this year was a rookie for me. He got drafted to Colorado. You get these guys coming across, and it's fun to see, right? And it is growing, and I do talk to these guys because I coach with them in the summertime. So these NLL guys are around all the time. And there's a lot of conversations about players and who's here and who's playing here, or who's good, or hey, we need a goaltender. Hey, we need a face-off guy. And I'll say the best player in the league. Like that's what I don't care, but just my team. It's more or less who's available and who can we, get to the next level, because that is the next thing. For me, yeah, winning a championship should be great, but our biggest thing for me is getting these guys to the next level and develop them on the floor and the mentality they need to get to the next level, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Now, when you're working with them, I don't think they need a whole lot of motivation, but how do you keep them on track? Because you got guys who are going to try and figure out it for themselves, and they need to be curbed into the program. And a lot of it is about, natural raw talent. Yeah, but it's about learning to work with their teammates.
Yeah, I got a good example was Josh Medeiros, who plays in Rochester now. He was a draft pick he went to the NLL or the ALL Combine. I picked him out of the Combine. He was out of Brampton Junior, and he was a transition player, but he played offense and defense. I picked him up. Great guy, great team player, great dressing guy. One of my favorite players I've had to be able to coach in Paris. But I'll tell you, like me and Chris Driscoll is one of my assistant coach, and he's played a long time in the NLL, so we know what's the next steps of how we're doing this. But we just chatted with him and we're like, listen, like you need to lose 20 pounds, and this is where it comes down to. You need to get a trainer this summer, personal trainer, and you need to put in the effort, because if you put in the effort, your talent alone, you're going to play in the NLL. And I kid you not, Josh came back the next season, lost what he needed to lose, worked on his stuff, and he made Panther City. I think he scored 22 goals his first year, 21 goals as a transition player. That was his first year. You know, he went to a couple camps. He went to Buffalo camp, he went to Calgary camp, and his practice roster, I think, a little bit there. But playing with us, and that was the biggest thing. So for him to sit there and look at us and say, "What do I need to get to the next level?" and actually do it is a huge compliment to him. But it's also to some of the coaches that we have in the league. Like, hey, here's the small things. You have all the talent in the world. You just need to get in shape now, or you need to put that next little thing here. And he did it, and that's one of my examples. And I say about him all the time. He's a great guy. But that's something you have to do. And it's tough to tell a player, like, hey, you need to get in shape, or hey, you need this. But we've been around that game. We've been around the coaches. We've been around the GMs. That's what they're looking for, right? And if you're not fitting in there, you're not making the team.
It helps also in combining two players that have the same interest, playing on the same team, same floor. They motivate each other.
Absolutely.
I would think one of the biggest problems you have there is, because guys are going up and coming back, is to keep a steady team. Because you're losing guys this week to this team, you're losing guys that next week to the other team, and trying to keep, number one, keep the roster full so you don't wind up with 12 runners and that's it for the game. That doesn't make for a fun afternoon either. But to try and keep, well, there's been a number of those games I've watched, but
Yes.
where you can't gamble on it because you don't know who's going to be there until the first face-off. But it's just the coaching style of how to keep everything going no matter what lineup you got.
Yeah. But that's some of your veteran players that you have that help out. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's where they can kind of bring in that veteran stuff. If you look through the ALL rosters, there's a ton of guys that play in the MSL. You know what I mean? Which is great. That's senior A, highest level that you can play in Ontario, like in the summertime. So we do have a lot of those players there. There's a ton of ex-NLL players that are trying to get in another tryout, or they got released. They just never fit in somewhere. And when you have these guys in the team, it kind of draws everybody else together because, hey, I played here, but now I'm playing in this league. Do you know what I mean? So the other side of the coin, though, is that, yes, I lose players all the time. I had Luke Robinson on my team last year, and he was a practice roster with Toronto. I lost him half the year. Marley Angus, same thing. The last couple of years, he was with Toronto Rock. I lost him all. Like, you just lose them, and then all of a sudden playoffs come and they're traveling. It's just what happens, right? And it happens to all the teams. It's tough because your roster do look different all the time. I don't know how we can change that. I know there's been a lot of talk about stuff in like the AHL from the NLL and making teams have their players play below you, but that's tough too because there's just not enough players, right? And if the guys don't want to play in the summer or in the NLL, then they don't have to. So it's a tough one. But I think if you have a good core of guys and they're on the same page of what you teach them and what you want to coach them and how you want to develop them, is it about yelling in the dressing room? No, it's about talking to these guys and let them understand the steps they need to take on that floor and who's watching. Like, games are videotaped every week. They're on YouTube. Do you know what I mean? So everybody sees the games. And there's NLL scout, there's scouts out there. There's GMs watching. Everybody's looking for that hidden gem, right? And then there's one out there. A lot of times it's in the Arena Lacrosse League, either here in Ontario or West in the OS League.
Right. Now, let's hit on the scouting part a bit, because you actually worked as an Eastern scout for the Vancouver Warriors. And I already know with your sense of a keen eye, just being the coaching and all the other things, that what were you looking for as a scout for the Warriors? Was there anything in particular that you would have an eye for?
Yeah, we chatted a lot about the Ontario guys because they don't see them, right? So I more or less dealt with all the Ontario guys. I was coaching in Coburg, so I see all the players around. A lot of times it was like some of the free agents that kind of the NLL free agents, or the guys that are on the practice roster, or guys that are just kind of looming that maybe played hockey or they're away at school. So the talks I had with Ken and Dan, who was the GM and the assistant GM out in Vancouver at the time, it was more or less like, hey, what do we got? Who's coming up? And it was always about the draft. So it was almost like we always focus on who was eligible for the draft and who was kind of there, and then fall on that stuff. They took Adam Chamberlain when we were there, which was a draft pick from them. A couple kids from Ontario went out there. Guys I coached, I had a couple guys that were late D guys that they picked up. The problem is when you have an NLL team, you already have 17, 18 guys, 19 guys there with the practice roster. It is tough to make a spot. But it all depends on what happens in the offseason. Guys get traded, free agency, and how many spots are available. We have a couple teams that they have that, and there's no spots available, right? So you can draft whoever you want, but a lot of these guys just get released because there's no spots for them. But we had a lot of good conversations, and like I said, with coaching in the MSL, I've seen every single player that's played, right, or in the league. So it was just more or less focusing on that. But yeah, there was no real players. We had a couple of times in the season, they took up Nolan Plain, who's our backup goaltender, or who's our starting goalie in Paris. He actually went up and played a bunch of games at the backup because he had some injuries. And he was one of the better ones at the time, who was in Colorado, and he was at a couple other teams. And he was my goalie, my starting goalie in Paris. And I'm like, here you go play. And which he did. And that's part of that league with the Arena Lacrosse. Like, you want to put him up there. I had Mitch Gustafson, who was a face-off guy just before they changed the coaching staff there. They had injuries there. Mitch Gustafson came. He was playing in Oshawa at the time. He wasn't even playing for me, but I knew him from the summertime in Coburg. He was a really good face-off guy, and he did well when he was up there. So it was just those small pieces and what they needed. And I'd give them a couple guys' names, and we'd sit in the room and we'd chat on the phone. It wasn't like it was, my say against their say or whatever. It was more or less like, hey, who can really fit in this role and who can help us out.
Right. It's funny. I was talking with Neil Doddridge about stuff like that, and his scouting abilities, and he would look for the way guys ran, because teams aren't into paying for ACL, MCL surgeries and all the rest of that thing. And he would specifically look at how guys ran. If they ran on the heel, they ran on the ball of their foot, or they ran on their toes. And he had that theory when he was trying to draft things. Was there any little tells like that you would keep your eye on, or? I think for sure. Obviously, natural talent's one, but I think even now, when I'm looking to even draft guys for our team in the Arena Lacrosse, like, you got to look on skill level, maybe what that ceiling is, and then it's also, can this guy make it to the next level? Can we get him to do a couple extra things to go this far? I think a lot of it is obviously in shape. If you're in shape and can run, it helps, especially the transition world, because I tell a lot of guys, you can play offense and you can play defense, but realistically, if you look at an NLL roster, there's 7 guys playing forward, right? 4 righties or 3 lefties, or vice versa. Do you know what I mean? And defense is usually 10. So I tell them as well, like, if you think you can make and beat out half these guys in the NLL roster on that, do you know what I mean? As a forward, sure, that's great. But if you can play both ends, so I think if you could see something in a guy where, this guy can play front door, back door, he could be on ball team. I think those are the ones that you're scouting for. It's hard to scout for Jeff Teat when Jeff Teat's there. He's coming up. He's got all the skills. Do you know what I mean? That's a different breed. It's the secondary guys, the third, like, it's the guys you pick up in the 3rd round, 4th round that maybe someone missed on that turns into be a stud. That's the ones you want to look for. And a lot of those guys are the ones that just have the natural athleticism. They got the ability to run. They're in shape. Good kids. That's the other thing too. Like, if you talk to any NLL GMs, that's the biggest part too, right? You got to have a good head on your shoulders. They're not just going to pick somebody up because it's always the talent. You need to be there too, right? And have the conversation piece that they're looking for, right? As a player, as a person, and overall for that team and for the community. Right. It's a word we always come back to, is character. You're looking for that character guy. Maybe not the most talented guy in the room, but the character guy that will fit in with the team, will be there for the team, and all of that.
Yeah, shows up to every practice, always on the floor first, does all the right things. Never gets hurt. Like, not saying guys get hurt, but like, he's never really banged up. He's always there. First guy there, doing this. And those are the guys you wish you had more of, or you wish you had 10 of them, because those are the guys that's what wins games, right? Right.
Let's take a look a little bit at Ontario and just the way it's evolved since when you played to where it is now for OLA. Are we in the right direction, or do we need to make an about face, or what's your take on how OLA is right now?
In the sense of, like, in minor or junior, senior?
I would go with junior, really, but minor is something that I think that we don't put enough time or effort or money into. I always harp back to grassroots. It's one thing for the club teams and junior teams who get the money for the guys who are going to go to the NLL. I always worry about the guys who have no interest in being a professional, but just love the game and want to play it with their buddies and on the weekend or whatever. And the kids, same thing, and that's your future. That's your fan base, and that's how it continues.
Yeah. Minors, I think minors going in the right direction. I just look at the numbers. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you look on stuff, they say the numbers are down a bit, but when you look at all these brand new cities that have teams and the divisions now, it's very different when you look at the A division, and then there's like a C division, D division. All that stuff's new for me. You know what I mean? When you're looking at it, because I'm like, oh, geez, there's way more out there, which is really cool to see. I think the females in lacrosse is amazing to see, and how big that's getting now. Like, that's huge. My daughter, she's 6 and she's into, like, she loves field lacrosse. And here in London, we didn't really have it. And it's starting that we had a come try lacrosse this past September-ish, and it was great. And she loved it. and hopefully we have a team for next year. But that's what happens too, where these places just don't have coaches, and that's where I think this whole question comes back to like where we are from a minor to a junior. I think a lot of the coaching, I think that there's maybe not the right, or they don't have coaches. And I think that people that play the game, I think, or players, ex-players need to kind of give back or help out. But you are starting to see that, because I see that circle already, right? So it's really cool to see these guys helping out and bringing programs from nothing and actually building them up.
Right. And I really do think that all the smaller markets have a huge say in how this all develops and works its way towards the ALL, works its way towards the MSL, to the NLL. When all the markets are working hand in hand together, then I think everybody starts seeing the benefits of it all.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, we got to keep on developing these players, right? Like a lot of these players are getting, some of these NLL guys are starting to get old, like, they're starting to age up and stuff, right? So it's all that next kind of future coming up. It's great to see, the field, the junior field lacrosse team win the championship there for Canada this year, like, which is unreal, right? They had never done that or whatever it was. That's awesome to see. And it's awesome to see it grow like that. But as you said, like it does have to start minor and then into junior. But some of these junior kids, they just stop playing, or they go play hockey, or they get cut from the junior A team and there's no junior B team around. Do you know what I mean? That's the other thing too, right? Like some of these kids don't have anywhere to go. So what do you do? Do you I don't know. Like that's the other thing. I know there's a junior or the senior or the junior C. There's other leagues now that are growing, but maybe there's not enough around where these kids want to play. And I don't know if that makes sense to bring more in. Because I think sometimes it's maybe too watered down, where back in my day, we just had junior A. There's a little bit of junior B, but there wasn't much in our area. And it was just really the junior A loop, a junior B loop, and that was really it, right? That was it. And then if you're not playing, you're not playing.
Right. There's also that issue of people who can't play in Barrie have to travel all the way to Newmarket to try and get a team. That's a long way to go just to play, when you're not really looking at going to the next level.
Yeah, and I bring Windsor as an example, because Windsor's always had a good junior. Let's just say Windsor only had a good junior B team for a long time, but their closest junior A team would be Kitchener, which is like a 2.5 hour drive. You know what I mean? That's like almost a 3 hour drive. So it's hard when you have guys that have to travel so far to get to that highest level. But it's just reality where you live, right? And I know some kids move for the summer and they do that, which is great. But how else can you do it? There's our Ontario's growing. Like look at this year with Nepean, like the last couple of years has really grown as a junior team, and you're just starting to see like the small parts kind of grow. Do you know what I mean? Starting to grow. I know Coburg, I think it was their midget team, the Nemesis, and I don't want to say that wrong, but they had a great I think it was the provincials. They went to the finals. Like that's really cool to see. And I know it's all outskirts of Whitby and all the way up that way, but it's great to see other places come out of nowhere. And then the coaching that's there, right? Like it helps when you have good coaching, and it helps when you have people looking out for these small towns and growing them. But I think we're in a good space. Like I really think lacrosse is, and I still say this, but I think it's still booming. I think with everything that's coming down the road, with the NLL back now, with their agreements, that was a tough one, right? With the CBA and stuff. Yeah. So I'm glad that got cleaned up and that's starting soon. And, a lot of guys are reaching out to me about stuff and opportunities and about the Arena Lacrosse League and next steps. And it's really cool to see. So I'm really looking forward to the next couple of months and getting things going.
Right. Now, we have Olympics down the road also in 2028. What's your thoughts on sixes?
I just watched that one we were just talking about before the show. I watched that one, and it was really cool. It's a totally different game. Like it's up and down, up and down. I think for a sports person to watch it, I think they'd be intrigued by it and kind of, I think it'll catch people off guard because it is so fast, and you're just watching like this ball's moving like crazy. I liked it. I thought it was really cool. I think it's a good opportunity, and I think it should have been in there. Lacrosse has been around forever, and it's unfortunate it hasn't been. It's taken this long to get to the Olympics, but really looking forward to that. And I think it's a really huge opportunity for Canadian lacrosse and for the world to see one of the best sports on 2 feet.
Right.
It's funny, that it raises the curiosity in your mind of somebody who loves lacrosse and played for a while. So it kind of refreshes the idea, doesn't it? Even for the ones who already know it. Yeah,
like it's kind of neat when you talk about lacrosse or someone says, "What do you do?" and play lacrosse, and they don't know what it is. Meanwhile, it's been around forever. Do you know what I mean? And it's on TV, and it's not like it's not there. Like the avenues are there to see it. I think this just brings lacrosse to a next stage, right? Like I think it really does. If you're going to the Olympics and people see stuff like that and they catch on to it, and I hope it grows the game. I hope it grows everything. Like when it comes from field lacrosse, like I was never big into field lacrosse growing up because we didn't really have field lacrosse in Kitchener. Like we didn't really have it through the high schools or through anything else. So I never really had the chance to do it. But every single coach that I have, or all these kids I coach in the Arena Lacrosse League and junior and everything now, they all played in the States. They all played scholarship somewhere, or they had whatever. It's just come a long way from back in my day too, right? Where it's really cool to see it. And if you can take advantage of that and go get an education, go play lacrosse, play a sport you love, and travel around and see different things, like why not take advantage of it, right? So I hope this really kind of blows that up and turns it into a lot more. Because even the university in Ontario, the CLOFA stuff is crazy, right? Like that's picking up too, and there's a lot of good players there.
I'm heading back in a few minutes.
Right. No, I agree with the CUFLA stuff because over the last couple of years, we're seeing more and more guys getting drafted who are making a name for themselves in Canadian universities. And there, I know with Scott Fox being the commissioner and Tom Bolesky being the deputy, that is working with their Rolodexes and bringing it more to the forefront, trying to get it more on YouTube and on TV, and more about the Begataway Cup and things like that to really put it to the forefront to get these guys looked at.
Yeah, I wish they could like it. Yeah, I haven't seen. I know they're trying to do like. Are they doing YouTube right now? Are they doing live games on there or not? I wasn't 100%. Like I always try to check out stuff.
There was a little bit of it, but I didn't see much of it this year. I know that's down the pipe to try and get like I say the game of the week, kind of like the football from college. Here, but it hasn't quite happened yet. I think them moving the Begataway weekend to Brampton brings it more centralized, as opposed to everybody having to try and go to Peterborough, up to Trent, and things like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the numbers are for that, because they've added a few things over the last year and a half just to make it the full rounded weekend. The rookie game and things like that. So that should be a lot more interesting too for to make it an experience for that entire weekend.
100%. I think the league is pretty like. I think it's growing obviously from where it was. Living here in London, I know a bunch of the coaches that were coaching the Western team here, and they won a bunch of championships over the years. The last couple of years, a lot of good players come from there. So I kind of follow that, but then I follow the Guelph teams and everything else, because when it comes to the Arena Lacrosse League, a lot of my guys come from the colleges. They all play university ball. So it's kind of neat. And like you said, there's a lot of NLL guys that are playing there. And then some of these kids that come back from school in the States that have a couple of years left of eligibility, they're all going to play somewhere, right? So it's kind of neat. And there's some really good players playing this year. A lot of talent. And like I just hope it grows that league a bit more, right? Like I've been to a couple of the girls field lacrosse here, and it was great. They have a weekend. There's like 4 games. There's a bunch of teams here. The televisation would be cool, or at least the YouTube where people can watch games. Right. I think that would be the next step, which would be really. I think it would help grow the game, obviously, on both levels of men's and ladies, and then just for the spectator to watch it, right? Rather than if you can't see it, how do you know it, right?
Right. Now we talked about this with a number of our guests, and do you think the NLL is missing the boat by not having an all-star game? The PLL have capitalized huge with ESPN, TSN, ABC, and putting that weekend. It's not so much about the game, but the skills and getting all that out there, and it's its own little entity now. With the amount of talent that the NLL has and is coming into the NLL, do you think that it's time that maybe they should reinstate that and really, push that through the ESPNs to try and get more viewers, to try and get different viewers?
Yeah, anything they could do to obviously get the viewers and to help with getting more fans in games, I guess you could say would be beneficial. I think how long has it been since it hasn't been in? Like I think the last one was like 2007, 10. Yeah, I was gonna say way back in the mid 2000s. Yeah, you know what? It's one of those things. But if it's not televised, Gary, like how much more people are going to see it? It's gonna be one game where everybody shows up to. Do you know what I mean? I think if it was televised, the whole thing
it would have to be an ESPN and thing is to get it out there, because otherwise there's no point. It has to get to the masses to see it.
I think the good thing is right now, I've seen a lot of commercials for TSN for the NLL. They've been pushing a lot of commercials, which is great. I'm a sports guy in general. I love sports, but when I see those commercials, I get a little small because I want to watch those games on TV. And it's been tough the last little bit when the games are on YouTube or when they're on the ESPN app, and you got to go pay for it and you got to do this other stuff. I think a lot of fans just don't want to do that. They just want to pay. They just want to put on TSN and watch it, right? So, I think if they televised it and they did a little bit more on the back end, it'd be beneficial. But I don't know. Like, it's right now, you go to Buffalo, there's 17 to 20,000 fans there every game, or throughout the playoffs, everything else. There's some really good players playing there. Toronto's up the road where there's what they hold there, maybe 10. I don't even know what it holds there, 8,000 in the arena.
Well, the Cups is 17,000, but they
changed.
They don't sell the upper bowl.
Yeah, I think they changed around a bit. So, but it's a pretty cool thing, and you're you can watch them live. I don't know. I just think that it's probably a couple years away unless they had a huge sponsorship and had it on TV. I just don't know if it makes sense to do it. Like,
right.
Just have them.
Well, Frank, you had your idea there before, which was a great idea of having the champion host the game, and it would be them against the All-Stars of the league. That way, there's a little bit more to the game, and kind of what the NHL did years and years and years ago. And that way, there's a little more skin in the game. That way, it doesn't become one of those pro football, touch football games or whatever, where you get 700 goals and really nobody's paying attention to what they're doing.
Yeah, that's the one thing. Like, the NBA did it where, last little bit, it's just been kind of, they're just hanging on, I guess you could say. I think the NHL really succeeded last year by doing the Four Nations Cup, and it was huge, right? You do all the All-Star guys were from different countries. You throw them up there. That was a big thing, and that was huge for them. It'd be interesting to do it that way. But like I said, it's
if you're doing a one-shot deal.
Yeah.
If you're doing a one-shot deal, but the NHL did a tournament kind of thing. Then that's a different story. Then you can do Six Nations. You can do U.S., Canada, and maybe then have some fun and invite a European All-Star team.
Or have it, Canada versus the rest or something. Because there's a lot of Americans coming in. Maybe that's the thing for like the next couple of years where you're watching all these American kids come in and play that are the Brandon O'Neills that come in first overall the last 2 years. Toronto, picked up
CJ
Kirst this year. So that's a pretty cool thing. So maybe that's the case the next couple of years where you do that, where it's like Canada versus, the world or whatever, and throw a game together. That'd be really neat to see.
Well,
I think
one thing's for sure, Jamie, you're right, because when they did that All-Star version in the NHL, a lot of people were watching it that didn't even know that, the NHL existed, and the NHL is a little deeper into the American psyche. A lot of people that you didn't think even watched hockey were talking about it. They thought it was great, and it has to do with national pride, obviously. So that's something that kicks in the interest, right?
It makes sense. It's tough though. If you look at the major sports, like and I'm not just saying it loud, but baseball All-Star game, I watched the home run derby. The game a little bit, but the game is kind of like they're going through so many players that it's not even really
has
game,
to lend
right?
itself to something like that.
That's
right?
what I mean. So the big thing is the big thing is the home run derby, right? Basketball, it's like the 3-point slam dunk contest. The game's usually kind of pointless because no one's playing,
right?
And that's where I think the NHL just kind of said, in the NHL's the same way. The games are blowouts. It was huge. No one really wanted to watch. Like, it was just getting to the point where they needed a change. I think lacrosse, if they did something like that, would be really cool. Like, I think it would be if you did, one game, world or Canada versus the world or whatever it is. But I think that's an option for something that they should look at, especially if the league's trying to do other things, right? So if that's something to do, that'd be huge.
Yeah, you alluded to it, that there has to be enough great American players to do that. And that's why the NHL has the advantage that it's a game that's very popular in Europe and Canada and the US. So
absolutely.
So that you got players to pick and players that people can say, oh, look at that great guy playing against that great guy, even though they're teammates normally. Like
during the regular season, 100%.
Absolutely. What advice would you give to young coaches who are trying to make their mark in the game?
I think the biggest thing is to understand your players. You got to understand the players. I think you have to be on the same page as your players in certain senses. And I mean that is, you can't talk down to certain guys. You have to talk to them as like an individual.
Yeah.
On the levels, like coaching the senior guys is a little bit different. And you have to talk to them as a person. I think they listen better when you talk to them as a person and you understand what they're going through. We don't always know what people go through every day, right? They come to the rink, they show up. You don't really know what they've had or how their work day was or how whatever. I think that's a big piece, is understanding like your players outside of the game as well, because that kind of brings you onto the floor where you can understand them as they're here. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
for me, that's my big thing. I talk to all my players. I'm an open book. A lot of guys text me, call me. We have conversations about stuff, families, everything else. But I think that's a big one. And then just understanding that they might not know everything. You have to teach them and put them in the right direction. Right. If it's a drill, if they don't know the drill, you can't stop the drill and get mad because they didn't do it properly. If you didn't show them properly. So for us, we always draw on the board quick, just say, we're going to do this, this, and this. A lot of times it's your veteran players that kind of help out, but that's for me is to really understand your players and have a good level of communication of what you want to see them do for practice / game, warm-ups, everything else. But you have to have them on a level page, like a level field as you and that understanding that way.
Right. Finally, what do you want people to think when they think of a Jamie Dubrick team? What do you hope they say?
You know what? For me, I like I said, I want them, like, we work hard. I want them to be like a hardworking team, obviously. But we're very, like, I don't know. We're competitive every time we step on the floor. I think that's the biggest thing is if you're not ready to compete, don't show up. Right. A lot of sportsmanship. Like, I don't want guys to be out there doing, you know what I mean? Play the game the right way. But for me, I coach differently in the summertime, the wintertime, to whatever. Like, it just depends on the team I have on the floor that night. I might have 10 guys, my next game, and it's a totally different coaching or how people see me. I'm very talkable, I guess you could say. People can come talk to me anytime when it comes that way. So I just want them, we put a hardworking team on the floor, but we're also there to do the work and to play the right way, I guess you could say.
Jamie, you're just not that. I mean, I'm sitting here watching you and I'm going, here's a guy who doesn't have the ability to pump his own tires.
I can't do that.
You need help. Let's put it this way. Let me try this on size for you.
All right.
Every player that comes to you leaves a better player.
There you go. I like that one, Frank. I appreciate that. Yeah.
I know who I'm listening to, and I know how hard it is for you to pat yourself on the back. That's why you've never suffered from a separated shoulder. Have you? No, you haven't. You have? No.
Have I?
Have you ever
patting yourself on the back?
Pat myself on the back. Yeah, I know. But it's tough sometimes when you're you know what I mean? That's not me. I'm not about myself. I'm always about the other kind of stuff.
Jamie, you're not unusual.
That's what I'm getting at.
Lacrosse players, people in lacrosse, it's always about the game. It's always about being involved. It's always about taking part. It's not something that derives a lot of credit or a lot of money or a lot of that kind of stuff, right? The best you can hope for in lacrosse as an ordinary chaser of the game is an education and maybe a little change playing for the National Lacrosse League, because it ain't a living. So there's got to be something else into it, right?
Agreed. Absolutely.
Right. Is the NLL on your radar? You've done MSL, you've done ALL. Is that still on the radar there that you like to hook on there, even as an assistant coach or hopefully a head coach?
Yeah, if the opportunity ever came about it, I would definitely be 100% on board for it. It's just tough in the way it is now. The way the league is there's a lot of teams there. The coaching staffs don't really change too often. When they do, the teams bring in their own guys. So it's tough for an outsider from that group of guys to get in there, right? So yes, if there's opportunity, I would love to take my, be assistant coach or anything. I could be on the bench. But that might come. Who knows, right? At the end of the day, you just don't really know. I'll put my time in, with the Arena Lacrosse League, with the Oakville Rock, and whatever else happens this summer. And then down the road with my kids, like my little guy's 2, and my daughter's 6. So when they start getting into playing more, maybe I'll be coaching them the whole way up. Who knows? I'd love, at the end of the day, yes, Gary, I'd love to jump on a bench in the NLL. So if it does happen, that'd be amazing. If it doesn't, everything else is good.
Yeah, you'll still be fulfilled.
Absolutely.
Listen, I really want to thank you for taking the time and talking about all kinds of different aspects of the game and your game and the state of the union and all the rest of that. So really, I appreciate the time you've given us.
Yeah, thanks, Gary, Frank. I really do appreciate you guys having me on. And it's been a lot of fun.
One piece of advice, get an agent. Oh, just kidding. You need somebody to pump your tires.
I know.
Darn it.
This is what happens.
Hey, listen, Gary, as usual, thanks for putting this together. And Jamie,
Absolutely.
Thanks for being the victim of our questions. And thank you for having so much interest that you do in the game of lacrosse. And congratulations on appreciating the game as deeply as you have from the time that you were a young child. We heard 2 or 3 years old till even now, and you're still thinking about the game. And thank you for doing that. And congratulations on all the success you've had.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right. He's Jamie Dubrick, and of course, Gary Groob. You've been watching NLL Talk. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you again next Thursday at 4 o'clock. Thanks for watching.